What if I told you they still think about you? They still wonder what you're doing, still scroll through your profile, and still hesitate over old messages. Maybe they even start typing, but then erase it again and again. But will they ever send that message? No, and here's why. The human mind is a battlefield, a silent war between desire and pride, between emotions and control. Right now, they're caught in that war. One part of them wants to reach out, wants to know if you still think about them, wants to feel that connection again. But then a stronger force stops them, fear, ego, and the one question they can't escape. What if you've already moved on? Because if they reach out and you don't respond the way they hope, if you seem indifferent or, worse, completely over them, that would mean they lost. It would mean they no longer have the power to pull you back, and that thought terrifies them. Most people would rather suffer in silence than admit they were wrong. They don't want to be the first to break. They don't want to look weak. So instead, they wait, watching, wondering, hoping you'll be the one to make a move. But the moment you do, they win. They win because now they know you still care. You're still thinking about them. And just like that, they regain control. You become predictable, a familiar memory they can revisit whenever they please. But when you don't reach out, when you don't react, when you show no need, no weakness, that's when everything shifts. Their mind starts spinning. Did I misjudge them? Have they really moved on? Were they ever truly mine? Doubt creeps in. The roles begin to reverse. The same thoughts that once haunted you now haunt them. The same questions that once kept you up at night now keep them wondering. This is the power of silence. Not words, not begging, not trying to prove your worth, just complete, unwavering control over yourself. And that control makes you untouchable. It forces them to see you in a way they never expected, as someone who is no longer waiting, no longer chasing. Now, they're the ones feeling uncertain. Now they're the ones replaying the past. And the deeper they fall into that uncertainty, the more they regret ever letting you go. So ask yourself, are you ready to take back control? Are you ready to stop chasing shadows, to stop looking back, and to start walking forward? Because here's the truth. They will feel your absence more than your presence. They will long for what they once had, but can never reclaim. And by the time they realize your worth, you'll be long gone. Now, if you're ready to step into your power, hit that like button, subscribe, press the bell icon, and stay locked in, because what's coming next will change everything. And before you go any further, I want you to comment below, I am worthy. Say it, claim it, believe it, because once you understand your worth, the world has no choice but to recognize it too. Let's begin. Number 1. The silent trap they never saw coming. You think their silence means they don't care, that they've moved on effortlessly while you're the one left picking up the pieces. But what if I told you their silence isn't indifference, it's a strategy? They're not reaching out, not because they've forgotten you, but because they don't have to. They're betting on the fact that sooner or later you will break first. They know how the game works. They know that most people can't handle uncertainty, can't handle the emptiness that follows a broken connection. And that's exactly why they're staying quiet. You see, emotions are power. The person who feels more is the one who suffers more, and the one who reaches out first loses the upper hand. So they wait, they watch, they let time do the work for them, confident that at some point your emotions will betray you, that at some point you'll crave their presence so much that you'll give in. And the moment you send that message, they win, because now they know for sure you're still thinking about them, you're still caught in the past. Just like that, they have proof that they still hold power over you, that they don't need to chase because eventually you'll always come back on your own. But what happens when you don't? When you don't text, when you don't check their social media, when you don't give them any sign that you're still waiting? At first, they might think you're just being stubborn, that it's only a matter of time before you cave. But as the days turn to weeks, as your silence stretches longer than they expected, something shifts. Doubt creeps in. Why haven't they reached out? Did they replace me? Did they realize their worth? Did I actually lose them? And that's when the balance of power tilts, because now they're the ones questioning everything. Now they're the ones feeling uncertain, haunted by the thought that maybe, just maybe, you're truly gone. This is the power of silence. It speaks louder than any words ever could. It forces them to confront something they never thought possible, the reality of your absence, the idea that you're no longer an option. And that realization shakes them, because people don't regret losing what's easy to get back. They regret losing what they can't replace. But here's the catch. This only works if you commit to it, if you refuse to break, if you let them sit in their own silence and wonder why you're not chasing like every other person they've known. If you become the exception, the one who doesn't need their validation to feel whole. Real strength isn't loud, it isn't desperate, it isn't impulsive. Real strength is quiet, controlled, unshaken, and when you master that, they will feel it, they will see it. In the end, they will regret everything. Number 2, the harder you chase, the faster they run. You might think that if you just explain yourself, if you just remind them of the memories you shared, they'll suddenly see the light and come back to you. But in reality, that's not how it works. Imagine trying to hold on to a handful of sand. If you squeeze too tightly, the grains slip faster through your fingers. That's exactly what happens when you chase someone who isn't ready or willing to return. Chasing is a neon sign flashing insecurity. The moment someone senses desperation, they instinctively pull away. It's human nature to want what feels slightly out of reach. Just look at how we're drawn to mysteries, to stories we can't fully predict. Once a story becomes obvious and predictable, it loses its magic. In the same way, when you chase too hard, you remove the sense of intrigue. You become too available, too certain, and certainty smothers desire. Perhaps you find yourself sending them repeated messages, hoping they'll see how much you care. But every double text, every attempt to recreate the good times tells them one thing: you're an option, not a priority. Why? Because real value doesn't need constant reminders. The people who truly value you will make an effort to stay present in your life. If they're not doing that, it's a sign that something is missing, either in how they perceive you or in how you present yourself. Questions might race through your mind at this point. Shouldn't I fight for love? Shouldn't I do everything I can to keep them? Fighting for love sounds noble in theory. We're told in countless books and movies that persistence wins hearts. But real life isn't a fairy tale, and genuine love isn't won by wearing someone down. If the connection was truly strong, it wouldn't require an endless chase. If they recognized your worth, they wouldn't let you slip away so easily. Let's say you continue chasing. You send that heartfelt message, you beg for another chance, you pour out your soul. For a moment, they might give you a crumb of attention, perhaps even pity. But pity isn't respect, and respect is the bedrock of attraction. Once they see that you're willing to compromise your dignity, you become far less compelling. It's like reading the last page of a mystery novel first. There's no reason to stay curious. On the other hand, when you back off, when you stop texting, when you disengage from their social media, you create a pocket of space. That space holds uncertainty, questions that will spin in their mind. If they ever truly valued you, have they moved on? Did they find someone else? Did I underestimate them? This uncertainty is the catalyst that might spark their renewed interest. Think of it as a game of tug-of-war. As long as you're pulling with all your might, they feel the tension and keep resisting. The moment you let go, they lose their balance. They stumble. They realize they only had control because you continued to pull. By letting go, you shift the power dynamic. This doesn't mean you're playing petty mind games. It means you respect yourself enough not to cling to someone who doesn't cherish your presence. You're not threatening them. You're not giving ultimatums. You're simply walking away from a situation where you're not valued. In doing so, you create an environment where they have to face what it's like without you. If they decide you matter, they'll come back of their own accord. If they don't, then you've saved yourself from an endless cycle of one-sided effort. No one forgets a truly valuable person. If they don't feel the need to return, it could mean your worth wasn't apparent to them, or you spent so much energy chasing that you forgot to cultivate your own self-respect. The best way to address that is to focus on growth. Build your confidence, refine your skills, enrich your life so that you become the person you've always wanted to be, not for them, but for yourself. When you elevate your sense of self-worth, you stop broadcasting desperation and instead project composure. When someone sees you standing firm in your own power, they realize they no longer define your happiness. You do. And people are naturally attracted to that unshakable sense of self. In the end, the harder you chase, the faster they run. Because people are wired to be drawn to what isn't easily obtained. By letting go, by refusing to beg or plead, you transform yourself into the kind of person they actually have to earn. And that shift in energy can make all the difference. It can turn you from a mere option into a genuine priority. Not because you forced them to see your worth, but because you realized it on your own. Number 3, why they gravitate toward emotional control. Have you ever noticed how some people, the ones who seem to care the least, always end up with the most attention? It's not magic or luck. It's all about how they handle their emotions. When someone doesn't overreact, doesn't chase, and doesn't let fear dictate every move, they end up standing out in a crowd of restless minds. This quality isn't just some mysterious gift. It's a skill called emotional control, and it's exactly what makes others gravitate toward them. Imagine you're sailing on a vast ocean. Storm clouds loom overhead, waves crash all around you, and the wind howls. 2 captains stand at the helm of separate ships. One captain panics, screaming at the crew, darting from one idea to another, clearly overwhelmed. The other captain remains calm, checks the compass, signals their crew with collected confidence, and navigates steadily through the storm. Which captain would you trust with your life? The second one, of course. That's the power of emotional control. People naturally flock to those who exude calm and certainty, even when everything around them is in chaos. It's often said the one who cares the least holds the most power, but it's not really about caring less. It's about caring wisely. If you let every emotion run rampant, jealousy, anxiety, impatience, then you lose the ability to make clear decisions. You're like the first captain, reacting to every gust of wind instead of staying focused on the final destination. On the flip side, when you keep your emotions in check, you stay centered. You become the person others see as a rock, an anchor in turbulent waters. Why is this so attractive to people? It comes down to a basic human craving for stability. Everyone faces their own share of storms, conflicts at work, family issues, personal insecurities. When they encounter someone who isn't easily rattled, it's like stumbling upon an oasis in the desert. Instantly, they sense that here is someone who can handle pressure without crumbling, someone who can provide a measure of certainty in a very uncertain world. Questions might arise at this point. Isn't it natural to show your emotions? Absolutely. Bottling up everything isn't healthy. Emotional control doesn't mean you become a stone wall with no feelings. It means you understand your emotions well enough that they don't dictate your every move. You acknowledge what you feel, but you respond rather than react. You decide how to act based on a steady mind, not fleeting impulses. Another common doubt might be, aren't people drawn to vulnerability? True vulnerability can create genuine connection, but there's a huge difference between honest self-expression and frantic emotional outbursts. When someone sees you having a bad day but calmly acknowledging it, maybe saying something like, "I'm feeling low today, but I'll be fine," they witness an authentic person who isn't ruled by fear or anger. That kind of grounded vulnerability can be powerful. However, if you're constantly spiraling or panicking, it doesn't invite empathy as much as it signals instability. Consider a quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Life throws curveballs, relationships fade, conflicts arise, and disappointments happen. You can't control every wave the ocean stirs up, but you can certainly control your steering. In the realm of personal connections, being the person who keeps a steady hand at the wheel is rare. Why? Because it takes discipline not to lash out, to resist the impulse to beg for attention, or to chase after someone who's pulling away. Maybe you find yourself replaying conversations in your head, wondering what you could have said differently. Or perhaps you can't stop thinking about someone who seems to be slipping from your life. This endless cycle of worry only adds more wind to your personal storm. It's easy to say, just let it go, but letting go requires practice, meditation, journaling, physical exercise. These are some ways to regain your sense of calm. The key is to direct your focus inward, building your own strengths rather than outward on what you can't control. Attraction, in large part, is about perception. If you appear frantic or unstable, people sense a lack of security in you. But if you're the one keeping your cool, like the captain steering calmly through a storm, others will find themselves unconsciously drawn to your presence. They may not even be able to put it into words. They'll just feel safer, more at ease around you. Think of emotional control as the backbone of confidence. A confident person doesn't need to raise their voice or frantically prove their worth. They simply know it. When someone senses you're not desperate for their approval, it signals that you have a strong foundation. It's reminiscent of that line from Rudyard Kipling's poem If, which says, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, you'll be a man, my son." Of course, this applies to anyone, regardless of gender. Keeping your head when everyone else is losing theirs is indeed a timeless marker of strength. Another question might arise. But what if they leave because I didn't show enough emotion? Here's a crucial truth. If someone truly values you, they won't vanish just because you didn't chase after them. People who require constant displays of desperate attention are typically looking to fill their own insecurities. Once the chase is over, the thrill fades, and they move on to the next source of validation. By maintaining composure, you attract those who appreciate genuine steadiness, not transient drama. In the end, it's not about never feeling afraid or hurt. It's about recognizing those emotions, respecting them, and not letting them rule your actions. When others see that you don't crumble under pressure, that you don't plead for their approval, they realize you're someone who stands on solid ground. And that kind of presence is magnetic. Strive to be like that steadfast captain on the open sea, aware of the storm, yet always navigating with a clear head and unwavering purpose. People will notice. They'll sense the confidence in your silence, the calm in your gaze, the unwavering direction in your decisions. That's emotional mastery, and that's why they'll be drawn to you, even when everything around you seems to be spinning out of control. Number 4, the unreadable edge that keeps them guessing. Predictability is the silent killer of attraction. The moment someone feels they can read you like an open book, knowing your every move, thought and feeling, curiosity fades. They stop wondering what you're doing because they believe they already know. And once that sense of certainty sets in, there's no mystery left to explore. It's like finishing a puzzle. Once all the pieces are in place, you simply set it aside and move on. Now think about what happens when you introduce unpredictability into the mix. Suddenly, the puzzle isn't complete. They can't immediately decipher your moods, your intentions, or your reactions. That gap in knowledge triggers a natural human response. They want to fill it. They start asking themselves questions. What's going on with them? Why haven't they posted anything lately? Are they seeing someone else? In that moment, you shift from being a solved problem to an enigma, and people don't walk away from a mystery until they find the answers, or at least convince themselves they have. You might wonder, isn't being mysterious manipulative? Not necessarily. Think of it as preserving your sense of self instead of putting it all on display. There's a difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy often implies deceit, hiding things that directly affect the other person. Privacy, on the other hand, is about maintaining healthy boundaries, choosing what to share and what to keep for yourself. When you give away every detail of your life, you leave no room for intrigue. It's like reading a book where the ending is revealed on page 1. Why keep reading if the story is already laid out? Another question might come to mind: shouldn't I be open and honest with someone I care about? Of course, honesty is crucial in any genuine connection, but there's a difference between honesty and constant exposure. Being honest about who you are, what you want, and how you feel doesn't mean you have to broadcast your every thought and emotion. You can be honest while still retaining a certain level of mystique. It's not about misleading someone. It's about allowing them to discover you in layers, like carefully unwrapping a present one piece of wrapping paper at a time, rather than tearing it open in a single rip. If you flood someone with updates, status posts about every mood swing, lengthy explanations about your feelings, or frantic attempts to connect when you sense distance, you're inadvertently making yourself too accessible. It's similar to a restaurant that hands out free samples on every corner. People take a bite, enjoy it for a moment, but they don't feel the need to step inside and pay for a full meal. The mystery is gone, the novelty is lost. When you share everything, you deprive them of the intrigue that pulls them closer. Let's consider a real-world metaphor. Imagine you're attending an art gallery with dozens of paintings lining the walls. You wander from piece to piece, drawn in by the ones that speak to you but can't fully be understood at first glance. Perhaps the colors are abstract, or the shapes are confusing. You step closer, trying to decipher the brush strokes, wondering what the artist was thinking. That sense of wonder keeps you there, looking deeper, trying to unravel the hidden story. Now compare that to a painting that spells out every detail clear as day, with no room for interpretation. You look at it once, maybe appreciate it briefly, then move on. In the realm of personal connections, being that art piece with depth and subtlety can make the difference between fleeting interest and lasting fascination. You might still ask, what if they lose interest because I'm not always available? In truth, someone who genuinely values you won't lose interest just because you aren't at their beck and call. Instead, they'll respect your boundaries and be intrigued by the parts of you they don't fully grasp. It may even prompt them to invest more effort in understanding you. If they do lose interest, it often means they were primarily interested in the convenience of your immediate attention, not in you as a complex individual. Another concern could be, aren't relationships built on closeness and sharing experiences? Absolutely. The key is balance. You do want to share meaningful experiences, but not every tiny detail. You can remain close while still having private dimensions to your life. Think of it like a well-tended garden. You invite someone in to see the beautiful flowers, but you don't necessarily reveal every inch of soil or every gardening technique. Part of the beauty is allowing them to wander and discover things on their own. Here's a quote to consider. Familiarity breeds contempt. While this might sound extreme, it holds a grain of truth when it comes to maintaining intrigue. Complete familiarity, where there's nothing left to learn, can dull the spark that keeps people interested. It's not about playing games or withholding affection. It's about recognizing that a sense of curiosity is fundamental to human nature. We are wired to explore, to question, and to uncover what's hidden. If you're worried about being too distant, remember that mystery isn't the absence of connection. It's the invitation to deeper connection. Mystery says, I have layers, each one is genuine, and you're welcome to discover them one at a time. It's an open-ended journey rather than a neatly tied conclusion. If you present yourself as a fully solved riddle, there's little reason for anyone to stick around and ask questions. Becoming more enigmatic means breaking predictable patterns. If you always respond instantly, consider taking a moment before replying. If you usually post every thought on social media, scale it back and let them wonder what's happening behind the scenes. If you've made it a habit to show your emotions the second you feel them, practice pausing, reflecting, and deciding how you genuinely want to share. Ultimately, the power of mystery lies in inviting someone into a world they don't fully understand, yours. When they realize they can't anticipate your every move, they become attentive. Their senses sharpen. They look for signs and signals, noticing details that they once overlooked. You transform from a known quantity into a compelling question mark, and it's that question mark, those small gaps in their knowledge of you, that makes them lean forward, intrigued by what they might discover next. After all, the allure of the unknown has fascinated us since the dawn of storytelling. We crave hidden treasures, secret maps, and stories that keep us on the edge of our seats. Why not be the kind of person who keeps others guessing, not by playing games or being dishonest, but by respecting your own complexity and sharing it thoughtfully, piece by piece? In doing so, you not only maintain your dignity, but also spark a deeper, more genuine interest. You become a riddle worth solving, a story that compels them to keep turning the pages, eager to see what lies in the next chapter. Number 5, the transformation they never saw coming. You want them to regret losing you. You want to turn the tables completely, then stop thinking about them and start rebuilding yourself. Because here's the truth. They're not paying attention to your words. They're watching your actions. They're waiting to see if you crumble without them or if you rise without them. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you're at a crossroads. One path leads to obsession, overanalyzing, waiting, hoping they'll come back. The other leads to transformation, becoming someone so focused on growth that whether they reach out or not is completely irrelevant. Because when you're too busy winning, the past loses all meaning. Regret doesn't come from seeing you suffer. Regret comes from seeing you thrive. Imagine a wildfire. When a forest burns, it looks like total destruction. But give it time, and something incredible happens. New life begins to sprout, stronger, more resilient than before. That's you. You're standing in the ashes of what was. But the question is, are you going to sit there mourning, or are you going to rise? Here's the brutal truth. People don't feel the weight of their choices when you're stuck in the past. They feel it when they see you building a future without them, when they see you improving physically, mentally, financially, when they realize that the version of you they once knew no longer exists. That's when the regret kicks in. Not because you tried to impress them, but because they now understand what they lost. But this is where most people fail. They chase revenge. They want to prove a point. They think if they can just show how much they've changed, they'll win. But the truth is, you don't evolve for them. You evolve for you. The goal isn't to get them back. The goal is to become the kind of person they could never replace. Ask yourself right now, are you stuck replaying old memories, or are you out there making new ones? Are you wasting energy stalking their social media, or are you in the gym sculpting your body into something they won't even recognize? Are you drowning in self-pity, or are you working on your craft, sharpening your mind, stacking your wealth? Are you waiting for validation, or are you creating a life so powerful, so fulfilling, that their absence is nothing but a distant echo? People are drawn to strength, not just physical strength, but mental, emotional, and spiritual strength. When you're unshaken by loss, when you move forward without hesitation, that energy is magnetic. It pulls people in, not because you want them back, but because self-mastery is rare. It's rare to see someone walk away from the past with their head held high. It's rare to see someone rise from pain and use it as fuel. And what's rare becomes valuable. It's easy to get lost in thoughts like, what if they forget me? What if they move on and never look back? But the real question is, why does that matter? If someone can walk away from you without hesitation, why are you clinging to them? If they couldn't recognize your worth back then, why do you need them to see it now? The ones who are meant to be in your life will be drawn back, not because you begged, not because you chased, but because they felt the change in you. Success is the loudest silence you can give. No message, no explanation, no desperate attempts to prove yourself, just results. And when they see those results, when they realize the person they left behind no longer exists, that's when it hits them. Too late. Picture this. Months from now, they stumble across a photo of you, but you look different, stronger, happier, unbothered. They hear your name in conversations and realize you're doing things they never thought you'd accomplish. They expected you to fall apart. Instead, you became something greater. And in that moment, the weight of their decision crashes down on them. They left someone who was still growing, someone who was still evolving. The past is dead. You don't live there anymore. You don't owe explanations, closure, or second chances. What you owe yourself is the opportunity to become more. And the best part? When you reach that level, when you finally become that person, you won't even care if they notice, because by then, you'll be too far ahead to look back. Number 6. The shift that haunts them forever. You want to know the exact moment they regret losing you. It's not when you text them. It's not when you try to prove your worth. It's when they realize they no longer have power over you. Because here's the truth. People don't regret losing someone who still wants them. They regret losing someone who moved on without them. Right now, they assume you're still thinking about them, that you're still watching, still waiting, still hoping they'll come back. And as long as they believe that, they feel safe, comfortable, in control. But the moment they sense a shift, the moment they realize they no longer occupy space in your mind, your heart, your life, that's when regret starts creeping in. Because suddenly, it's not them rejecting you, it's you rejecting them. It's subtle but powerful, the way you stop engaging, the way you no longer react, the way you carry yourself like someone too focused on their own growth to be bothered by the past. They will feel it, and it will shake them, because now they have to ask themselves, did I make a mistake? Were they actually better than I thought? And here's where psychology works in your favor. The human mind hates uncertainty. It craves answers. The second they start questioning, they start looking, checking up on you, watching your stories, asking mutual friends about you, finding excuses to reconnect. Because suddenly, The story they created in their mind, where you're still longing for them, is starting to fall apart. Maybe they thought you'd always be an option, that no matter how far they pulled away, you'd always be waiting. But when you break that pattern, when you stop giving them that comfort, that's when they feel the loss. You see, regret isn't triggered by your words. It's not something you can force by trying to make them jealous, sending a long message or playing games. Regret happens when reality hits, when they see that you actually moved on, that you're actually different, that the version of you they once knew no longer exists. Think of it like an old favorite song, the kind of song they used to hear all the time, so they never really appreciated it. But one day it disappears from every playlist. It's gone. No more reminders, no more background noise, and suddenly they start missing it. They start searching for it, wishing they could hear it one more time. But by then, it's out of reach. That's what happens when you disappear, when you elevate, when you become someone they can never access again. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think making someone regret losing them means playing games, acting like they don't care, while secretly waiting for a response, trying to make them jealous by posting pictures meant to get a reaction. But that's not real power. That's still giving them attention, even if it's indirect. Real power is indifference. It's no longer needing their validation, no longer needing to prove anything, no longer looking over your shoulder hoping they're watching, because the second you stop caring whether they regret it or not, that's when they do. But let's address the question that might be in your mind right now. What if they never regret it? Then they were never meant to, and that's the most freeing realization you can have. Because their regret, or lack of it, doesn't define your worth. It never did. The goal was never to make them see what they lost. The goal was to make yourself so valuable that whether they realize it or not becomes irrelevant. Another thought might creep in. But what if they come back? If they come back, it won't be because you chased. It won't be because you begged or tried to prove yourself. It will be because they saw the shift. They felt the difference, and they realized too late that you weren't someone they could easily replace. But by then, you'll be too far ahead to care. This is how you make someone regret losing you. Not by hoping for it, not by waiting for it, but by becoming someone they will never have access to again. Number 7. The ultimate test. When you stop caring, you've won. Be honest. Are you still wondering if they'll ever reach out? Still hoping that one day they'll wake up, realize what they lost and come back? That thought right there is the final test. Because if you still care whether they regret losing you, you haven't actually let go. True detachment isn't pretending not to care. It's actually not caring. It's waking up one day and realizing they're just another person, another memory, another lesson. No anger, no sadness, no lingering thoughts, just indifference. And that is real freedom. Most people fail this test. They do everything right on the surface. They go silent, they focus on themselves, they level up. But deep down, they're still watching, still waiting, still hoping. And that hope, that's what keeps them stuck. Because hope is just another form of attachment, and attachment is the root of suffering. It's easy to trick yourself into thinking you've moved on when in reality, you're still looking over your shoulder, still checking their social media, still wondering if they're thinking about you. That's not moving on. That's just waiting in disguise. You might think, but what if they regret it? What if they reach out? And my question to you is, so what? If they regret leaving, that changes what exactly? If they come back, does that undo all the ways they made you feel disposable? Does it erase the nights you spent wondering what went wrong? Does it suddenly make them worthy of the person you're becoming? No, it doesn't. Because when you truly move on, you stop needing closure. You stop needing validation. You stop needing them to regret anything at all. They become irrelevant. Their opinions, their regrets, their realizations, all of it stops mattering. And ironically, that's when they feel it the most. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who is completely, unapologetically free. Imagine a bird in a cage. As long as the door is open and the bird is still inside, it doesn't have to think about whether it belongs there or not. But the moment that bird flies away, disappearing into the sky without looking back, that's when the loss becomes real. That's when the cage feels empty. That's what happens when you truly let go, not when you try to make them regret it, not when you wait for a reaction, but when you fly so far past the situation that they no longer have access to your mind, your heart, or your energy. Maybe you're thinking, but what if I still care? What if I'm not at that point yet? Then you have work to do, and that's okay. Healing isn't instant. But the sooner you realize that your worth was never tied to their recognition of it, the faster you'll break free. Every moment you spend checking, wondering, hoping, it's just more time wasted on something that isn't serving you anymore. So ask yourself, are you really letting go? Or are you just waiting in silence, hoping they'll turn around? Because if you're still watching, still wondering, still hoping, then you're still trapped. And the only way to break free is to let go completely. Number 8, why they're watching but can't face you. You might not see them, but they're there, watching, checking, wondering. But no matter how much they want to, they won't reach out. And here's why. Because if they do, they risk confirming their worst fear, that they no longer have power over you. Right now, they're playing a silent game. They want to know if you're still the same person they walked away from, if you're still waiting, still hoping, still emotionally tied to them. As long as they stay quiet, they don't have to face the truth. But deep down, something feels different. They sense the shift, they feel your absence. And it's not just your silence, it's your energy. The lack of reaction, the way you no longer orbit around them, the way they're slowly losing access to the version of you that once put them on a pedestal. That's why they're watching. Not because they're ready to come back, but because they want to see if you're still within reach, if you're still waiting in the same place they left you. But when they see that you're not, when they see that you've detached, evolved, moved on, that's when the panic sets in. Because now the power dynamic has shifted. Now it's not you waiting for them, it's them realizing they lost someone they can't get back. And here's the truth, people don't watch what doesn't matter to them. If they truly didn't care, they wouldn't check up on you. But they do, because something inside them still needs to know. Maybe they're looking for reassurance that you're still available. Maybe they're hoping to see signs of struggle, proof that they had more impact on your life than they actually did. But when they see the opposite, when they see you thriving without them, that's when reality hits. Because their silence, it's not indifference, it's fear. Fear of admitting they misjudged you, fear of seeing you become everything they never expected, fear of realizing they're now the ones left behind. That's why they won't reach out. Their ego won't let them, and if they ever do, it won't be out of love. It'll be for validation, a test, a way to see if they still have influence over you. But by the time that happens, you won't even care, because you'll be so far ahead that their presence will mean nothing. And when that moment comes, you'll finally understand what they think, what they feel, what they regret. It's no longer your problem.